this webinar on developing a science and engineering identity, and we're going to be looking at some resources from Bill Robertson, also known as Dr. Skateboarder. If you are familiar with Bill Robertson, you may have visited his website, or you may have seen the blog that he has on Click to Science. He is a physics teacher. He teaches students who might otherwise have fallen through the cracks about speed, velocity, and momentum at a local skate park. And we're going to be talking about some of the things he has learned in his work about developing identity. As we are working today, there are resources that you can access throughout the webinar. There's a couple of web links for you to visit, and there are also a couple of research articles that you can download if you'd like to. I want to get started by hearing a little bit from you about this topic. So please share in the chat box some strategies that you've used to encourage the youth in your program to develop a STEM identity. Is this something that you've thought about already, and what do you know? Thank you. We've got a few people who are starting to share some ideas, and it looks like a lot of people are saying that they're kind of new to this and it's not something that they've had a chance to implement yet, and that's good for us to know too. And I think that means that it's probably a good idea to open up our poll that we want you to give us some feedback. We're going to put that right in the middle of the screen. And let us know where you're coming from on this. What is your perspective today? Are you thinking about digital learning primarily from the perspective of someone who works with youth, primarily from the perspective of someone who works with staff, or from both? That'll kind of help guide our discussion a little bit and know what sort of comments and so it looks like we've got a lot of people who are viewing this from both perspectives of someone who works with youth and someone who works with staff. That's not too surprising because a lot of us wear multiple hats when we work in after-school programs. But it does look like that perspective of working with staff is probably dominant today. So we'll try to keep that in mind as we're talking. Let's see if I can make this go away. Perfect. All right, well, let me get started with a little bit of background because we did have several people who said they were new in this field. So Click to Science is an online resource, and it's really designed for site directors, trainers, and coaches, those people who work with staff in after-school programs and other informal science programs to provide staff development. But if that's not your role, there's also resources you can use to help yourself build your own skills in facilitating STEM learning. If you work with youth in after-school programs and 4-H clubs or at a museum, we hope that you'll be ready to share some ideas today from that perspective of someone who works with youth. We want to understand what your role is and your perspective in building a STEM identity, but we also want to share with you the resources that are available on Click to Science to help build the competence and confidence of the staff who work with students in informal settings. To make the most use of the Click to Science website, we want to encourage you to register. A registered user can download resources, can contribute to the chats, and also that gives us permission, well, you can choose to give us permission to communicate with you so you know when opportunities are coming up. So if you haven't registered, I encourage you to do that even as we're working during the webinar today to visit the website and register as a user. For those of you who are registered, you may know that Click to Science launched in January of 2014, and at that time we just had a few resources on the website for you to use, but we've developed a great set of videos and professional development resources around the 20 skills that make STEM click. And this year, in 2015, we are creating even more new videos so that you can see how STEM in informal programs looks like in a lot of different settings and with lots of different youth, because we know that it's a very varied field out there. If you work in an out-of-school time program and are interested in being one of the locations that we film at, there is a link on the website to fill out a survey and become one of those places where we will bring a film crew in and spend a day or two filming your staff and your students as they work through STEM activities. Now, as I mentioned earlier, our focus for the webinar today is developing a STEM identity. And we often think of the teen years as a time when young people are developing their identity, but it's not something that starts in middle school. Actually, developing your own identity is something that starts from the time children are very young. And developing a STEM identity, being able to see yourself as someone who contributes to and uses science and engineering, actually starts much earlier than middle school as well. So whether you have very young students in your program, kindergarten, first graders, or even younger, or whether you're working with middle school and high school students, this is a really important topic to think about, because after school provides a unique opportunity for students to develop their identity. Ideally, after school program is a time when the activities are very student-centered, when students have a strong sense of ownership in what they are doing, and that gives them the opportunity to explore their own identity and how what they're doing in after school contributes to that identity. As we were talking earlier, Jennifer mentioned that they're working with youth voice in their program in giving students that ownership of what's happening in after school. And when that's great, because that gives them an opportunity to explore identity at a different level when they feel like they have a voice and they're contributing to what's happening in their program. It can be done in terms of an individual activity where students feel like they're contributing and have voice, but if it's overall in the whole program, it's going to be even more effective. As we're focusing in particular on developing a STEM identity, I want to share with you 3 fundamental experiences you can provide for students that will help them develop their own STEM identity. First is to get students involved in STEM topics and professions, to give them opportunities to meet with people who work in this area, to participate in science experiments or inquiries or engineering design challenges. Citizen science projects are a great way for students to really feel that they are contributing to the field. Service learning is another opportunity where students can feel a strong sense of ownership and contributing to the STEM field. So getting them involved in the field, getting them involved in the processes or practices of STEM is a really important experience we can provide for students. We can also help them develop their sense of competence and confidence in STEM by providing them opportunities to engage in STEM practices, to solve problems, to engineer solutions, and to answer their own questions through experimenting, collecting, and analyzing data. The more opportunities they have to do this, the stronger their sense of competence and confidence is going to be. And finally, we can help students see themselves as contributors contributors and participants in STEM by giving them opportunities to share their ideas, to present what they've learned to others in their program or even to others in their community. So now we have another chat topic for you to contribute to. Do you have any ideas about how having a strong STEM identity can benefit a young person? I'm going to go back to this slide to share with you the strategies that we're recommending to help students develop a STEM identity. And then I want you to share in the chat box, how is this beneficial? What is this going to do to help them? So that you can all see the ideas as they're coming across in the chat box and can probably read them faster on your own than I can. But I'm going to take just a minute to look through them and see what great ideas we have. All right, looks like we're ready to move on. So the video that we're going to watch today is from our Science Everywhere series. And if you're looking for this on the Click to Science website, you need to go to the blog area first and look for the blog by Dr. Robertson called The Physics Behind Skateboarding. That's where you're going to find this video if you want to share it with your students or with your colleagues. In his blog, Dr. Robinson describes how he likes physics and how he views himself as a person who does physics. That's part of his identity. Being an educator is also part of his identity. He's been an educator for 20 years. But more central than either of those aspects of his identity is the fact that he's been a skateboarder for 37 years. That's part of who he is, and it's part of his identity. And in his blog, he talks about how he brings those different aspects of his identity together. And we're going to be thinking about how we can use the things that he's learned as a physicist and as a skateboarder to help students develop their own sense of identity as the person who does science or engineering or math. Now, skip watching the video together. There is a link to it in the center box down below, so that if you want to watch that video yourself later, you'll be able to do that. I am so sorry about that. It's a really good video. So down below there in the center web links box, there's the Physics Behind Skateboarding video. You can use that link to watch it yourself later. We'll go ahead and finish talking about what Dr. Robinson has to say about STEM identity and what resources Click to Science has to share with you. We just won't be able to see the video. Sorry about that. So what he found in his work is that connecting physics to the things that his students were already interested in made a big difference, which is probably pretty obvious to most of you out there. So how did he do that? His teaching strategy was first to provide educational experiences and then introduce concepts as students were going through the activities that they were interested in. So he took his physics teaching to the skate parks where students were doing that activity, or took students to the skate park where they could do that activity, and then use that as a context to provide the experiences that he wanted to have them have to learn physics. Here's the strategies that he recommends. First, get to know your students, get to know what they're interested in, and then plan how you can integrate their interest into the STEM experiences that you're providing in your program. If you can, use the expertise of teachers in your school or people in your community to help make those experiences more meaningful. Emphasize STEM practices and processes over STEM knowledge. don't focus on the products that they're creating, but the processes they're using to create those. Dr. Skateboard notes that scientists and skateboarders have very similar processes. They both use experimentation, and their goal is to be able to produce results that are predictable and replicable. So whether you're practicing a particular skate move and experimenting with it over and over to get to the point where you can be predictable and replicable as you're using that move, or whether you're doing the same thing in a science laboratory, that process is similar. And finally, he emphasizes that it takes time. Just like skateboarding, it takes time to master STEM, and it takes a lot of practice. It's important to have fun as you're practicing so that you can keep students engaged. Another point that I want to make with you before we go into a more open discussion is that there is some research behind this that you can use, and I've shared some of those links down here below, that there are after-school programs that have a research basis, that they have done evaluation studies to be able to show the impact that their programs have had on students' identity. A couple of programs that I would recommend just from the research I did preparing this webinar is Project Exploration in Chicago, and that's one of the links in the center web links box below, and TechBridge in California. Both these programs have done research on the impact their program has had on students' attitudes. And as you learn more about these programs, you can see how they're impacting students' attitudes. And the research basis on science attitudes in general helps us understand why out-of-school time programs and late elementary and middle school years are critical. And there's a couple of research articles. You can find the links to those articles in the center web box, or you can download the PDF of the articles themselves in the box to the left. And they talk about how age, gender, and ethnicity or race can impact students' attitudes toward STEM. And they have helped us understand why the late elementary and middle school years are a crucial period for students' identity and attitude towards STEM. And they've also helped us understand that STEM identity is important for all young people. It's important to recognize also that there are significant differences in the experiences that some students have towards STEM. And so there are issues where students of minority students or girls do not have the same experiences and do not have the same attitudes towards STEM. So it's important as we're working to impact this that we keep those issues in mind. So I want to give you an opportunity, and I know you've already shared some ideas about what you have done about developing a STEM identity, but I want you to think about and share in the chat box some ideas about what you could do. What are the opportunities that are out there in your program? Maybe not things that you've taken advantage of yet, but you see them as opportunities. And as you're doing that, I want to talk with you a little bit about the resources that are in the pod in the middle of your page that says STEM Identity Resources. These are resources that can help you strengthen your program and the experiences that you have for students. Are there partners in your community that you're working with that help you bring STEM experiences into your program? And if you don't feel like you have partners in your community, then these resources here in the pod down at the bottom of the screen might be really important. And I'll just talk a little bit about each of them as you're hopefully sharing some ideas in the chat box. 3M Science of Everyday Life is a site really focused on informal science experiences, the everyday experiences that we have with science and innovation. And there's a lot of resources there that you can bring into your program. Then there's a series of resources around engineering, because engineering is something that I'm really passionate about bringing to our students. There's a couple of resources designed specifically for girls. Engineer Girl is a website that targets middle school girls, and Engineer Your Life is a site that targets high school girls and brings them engineering experiences and introduces engineering role models. You can find some activities and videos there you can share with your students. Discover Engineering is for all our students who might be interested in a career in engineering, and there's lots of resources there to help them understand what the opportunities are in engineering, how that connects to their interests, and what they need to do to prepare for a career in engineering. In Science Buddies, the last site on our list, is a website that has lots of resources for hands-on science. And again, is like the Science of Everyday Life, is designed to be for informal programs, so it's a great fit for after-school programs. Thanks to the people who are sharing their ideas in the chat box. I think it really helps everyone to know what other people are doing in this area to help them know what's possible. Terry has a great comment there about some activities that they're doing with 3rd and 4th grade students. I want to thank everyone who shared their ideas with us today. And remember that there are lots of ways you can connect with us. We can keep this conversation going on Twitter. And I encourage you to continue to share your ideas, because it really is important. It is not just important for student success in school, but a STEM identity also impacts every area of their life. So we want to help all of our students know that they are people who do science, that they can use science, that they can contribute to science and be part of this community of STEM professionals, people who use science, math, engineering, and technology every day to solve problems and to answer questions. And that's what we want to have for our students.